Right, my guests today in studio, Brian White and Troy Sewing. So Brian White is the interim regional administrator for the Department of Transportation, taking in this area. Brian, thanks so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Good. He was in the area anyway for a meeting earlier this morning, and he also brought along Assistant Regional Administrator Troy Sewing. So Troy had to come along anyway, and I love it to have the both of you here.
Thank you.
Because we want to talk about Highway 12, White Pass, that today currently is closed because of a washout up there. I put a couple pictures that were your pictures on our Facebook page today, and I think that most people in our region have probably seen some of those pictures. So as we talk about Highway 12, first I want to, because it's closed, how important is that highway going over White Pass?
Well, it's a pretty important roadway. We see about 1,800 vehicles per day traveling over there, with about 250 trucks in that mix. You know, it's another way to get across from the east side to the west side, or vice versa. So it's one of our mountain passes. A lot of people like it. It's also very scenic. A lot of people just like to drive it for the scenery and recreation. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about recreation. We have White Pass Ski Resort up there. A lot of people go cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, snowmobiling, dog sledding, you know, the whole gamut of winter recreational sports. And so we're getting ready, Christmas break is starting for all the school districts, and so parents are wanting to take their kids up and, you know, play in the snow, and we want them to get up there too. And so US 12 is one of those ways that you do it. There's also a lot of cabins in the area as well that, you know, people want to get up to their cabins and, you know, start the fire and have some hot chocolate and watch the snow come down. So it's a big winter recreational route. 1,800?
Okay, I would have thought that it would be a lot larger than that. If we compare then White Pass to Snoqualmie Pass, which is considerably different,
right,
many more lanes and all that. How many cars approximately do you think go over Snoqualmie?
So over Snoqualmie we see about 25,000 vehicles a day.
25,000, okay.
And,
all right.
and, you know, they have different destinations, you know. I-90 really links east side, west side with the ports of Seattle and Tacoma, and so it is a big freight route. I-90 obviously one of the longest interstates in the U.S., goes all the way across, so it is a big freight corridor. US 12, again, a long route here in the state, starts over at the ocean and comes all the way through the Walla Walla area, so it's another long route, but like you said, you know, the interstate really designed for moving the freights and goods, and I-90 does go up to the Snoqualmie Pass area and a lot of recreation there, but you know, they're a little lower altitude, and so they get a lot more rain than, you know, White Pass does sometimes. So you know, it's just another route to get over between the two sides.
So White Pass is one that we as a state always keep clear. Chinook Pass we close.
Correct.
And is it closed now?
Yeah, it's closed now.
It's closed now, okay. So the washout on that roadway happened in that, I'm thinking now, as many of the people in our audience would be thinking about driving over White Pass, and we're getting closer to the ski area, but we're going up that grade that has basically a sheer drop-off down a mountainside, and that's where the washout happened?
So we actually have 3 areas that we're really concerned about for washout. We also had a landslide, or a rock slide really, near the tunnel. So as you're going to White Pass, you come up to the tunnel. We had a rock slide there that we had to clean up. And then as you continue on to that area you're kind of talking about on the east side of White Pass, we had a washout that they're working on right now at about milepost 154. And then as you go over the top of White Pass and start heading down the other side at milepost 142, we had a big washout. That's probably the one that you see on our internet, or maybe you posted that photo as well. It has a waterfall in there that really took away the whole eastbound lane for about 120 feet in that area. And then as you go down a little further, then we had another washout there that was mainly on the shoulder, but was a very substantial washout there. So 3 areas that we've been kind of focusing on. That's where our crews are at right now. Granite Construction is our prime contractor. They're up there working 24/7. They brought on DBM to do some of the soil stabilization work that's happening at milepost 154. So they're up there working, and you know, it's snowing here in the Tri-Cities. We've got a lot of snow in the Yakima area, and then you can imagine what it's doing up on White Pass. The forecast showed about 10 to 18 inches over the next couple days. So luckily last night we only got about 3 to 4 inches. And you know, it wasn't a whole lot, but again, it slows our crews down. I mean, you know what it's like to go out and walk in the snow. It's fun, but you're not moving as fast as you normally do. So it slows down the workers, equipment. It's harder on the equipment. You know, so but they're you know, our goal is to make sure everyone's safe up there too. So they are working around the clock and are being safe. And then of course our maintenance folks are up there as well, keeping the road plowed so we can get dump trucks and equipment up there. And then, as we mentioned before, White Pass is on top, and you know they're ready to get going, and so we're working with them to make sure their employees can get up to White Pass and they can do the maintenance that they needed to do. We also had to get Benton REA through there. Their power lines were down, so they were able to restore power up there as well during the event. So it's a really cooperative effort trying to get everyone through, and then working hard to get that pass open because we want people to be able to use White Pass.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go back to why this occurred. To have 4 events happen over, and they happened within like a couple of day period. What was going on? So it's rain.
Rain.
And so the ground is not frozen.
We had some snow because White Pass had opened up.
Yeah.
And then we got about 6 inches of rain in 2 days. And so, like you noted, there's a lot of rock faces up there, you know, way up the mountain. Mm-hmm. So that starts eroding some of the rock, and that rock comes down into our ditches and plugs our drains. And so when the catch basins get plugged, then that water's got to go somewhere, and sometimes the shortest path is over our roadway and down the hillside. Mm. And so some of our catch basins got plugged, and we had one of the culverts failed, and so that's what caused the washout. You may remember 2 years ago we had a similar problem on the east side of the pass where it was about this time of year where we had a large washout that we had to repair. They had to build a retaining wall in order to return those 2 lanes of traffic. So this one I'm talking about, 154, is just up the road from this other one. So it's just an ongoing problem. You just never know where Mother Nature is going to just, play her tricks.
No, you don't. You don't. And so I was mentioning that to you earlier, that if you look at these pictures, I was already very concerned about driving up there myself. When you drive in those winter conditions and see a sheer cliff. So tell me how you are going to restore confidence that the work that you are doing to fix those areas actually is going to be quite stable, and we should all feel confident in driving over it.
So first I just wanted to talk about what we're doing right now.
Okay, yeah.
And because we're doing we're calling a temporary fix. We're just trying to restore 1 lane of traffic at these 3 locations. And then we're going to probably have to come back next spring with a larger project to build some retaining walls in order to restore both lanes. Oh,
okay. So right now, when we get to that spot,
yes,
those particular spots, it's only going to be 1 lane.
Right, and then we'll have a traffic signal on either side to control the traffic.
I see. All right.
We were hopeful that we were going to be able to restore 2 lanes at both locations, but as we started working through it, doing the geotechnical investigation, the road was a little worse than we thought, and so we were just not able to redo it. And we don't want to be working up there in the winter time. It's really not the best time to be working up there. It's hard, like on people and equipment, and you have a slick roadway, and so you're trying to get material up there and things. It just adds to that problem. So at the milepost 155, we're constructing what are called soil nails, and basically you have a drill rig that's drilling a hole beneath the roadway, and then they put a steel rod in there, and they try to get it into bedrock, and they basically are bolting the roadway to the hillside. It's kind of the best way for me to kind of explain it. And so they build a pattern with those soil nails, and then they spray on liquid concrete, shotcrete is what we call it, onto a mesh fabric, and that holds that slope in place. We've done this extensively across the state, done it up on Snoqualmie Pass, and it works really well. Now on the other side of the mountain, at milepost 142, we're more of the kind of generic fix. We are end dumping rock into the washout area. We've got it to stick at the toe, and then we're just basically rebuilding that fill up to the top. So it just more rock to rebuild that slope. And then we're also going to install some additional culverts in there to keep water away from that work area and stuff. So 2 1 lanes, one at each location, both controlled by traffic signals.
Okay, all right. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this. Plus, I want to talk about some of the other Department of Transportation projects that are in our region that we can look forward to. And don't forget, our number is 547-8726 if you want to call and join our conversation. We're back in a moment. Our guest today in studio, Brian White, is the Interim Regional Administrator for the Department of Transportation, along with Troy Sewing, who's the Assistant Regional Administrator. We're talking about Highway 12, White Pass, and the washout areas up there on the pass. So what kind of money is it going to take to do this temporary fix, and where is this money coming from?
So we're kind of estimating that the temporary and permanent fix is going to be in the neighborhood of 5.6 million. It was very similar to a cost that we incurred at that other washout down below. And so that's what we are submitting to the Federal Highway Administration for reimbursement. But to kind of talk about where the money comes from and stuff, I'm going to let my money man, who's next to me, talk
Money
about
man,
that.
love it.
Yeah, I love it, love it. So this, as Brian talked about, this money ultimately will come from the Federal Highway Administration. They have a program called for emergency relief purposes, and money is specifically for repairing roads and highways during catastrophic events, whether it's potentially a truck hitting a bridge to Mother Nature taking its toll like it did up on White Pass.
Well, that's pretty good. So you talked to me about the temporary fix, but what are the permanent fixes? We put the roads back to 2 lanes?
Yeah, so right now we're trying to get the 1 lane open, and then we will come back after we do some more investigation and build probably a soil nail wall or some type of wall a little further out on the slope, and then backfill that material up, and then probably use some type of soil nail to tie it into the hillside. So it's just moving the wall further out in a more permanent fix.
Okay, well, on this program, we've had several people over the past several months that have talked about the changing climate of the state of Washington and how we are getting the same amount of precipitation as we've had, but it comes in a different form. So in the past, where we may have had a lot of snow, instead we'll get that moisture, that water, but it will come in the form of rain. So this year seems to be a good example of what can happen to our state. Do you anticipate, have you already looked into the future to say, well, we're going to have more of these events like this?
You know, we see cycles in the weather patterns,
Yeah.
and it's ever changing. This year again is an El Nino year, which typically pushes the storms to more precipitation. I think one thing that's evolved over time is in the field of engineering and hydraulics and really looking at what you need for a roadway. US 12 was constructed a long time ago. Maybe some of the culverts are not, they were sized correctly at the time for the standards, but over time now we're changing our standards to provide larger culverts to anticipate the drainage and designing for a bigger storm event than we have in the past. So it's changing. Engineering's catching up to where it's going, but I think as far as the weather, it goes in cycles, and just when you think you got it down, it'll maybe change back to more snow.
Well, we hope so. Yeah, we all want the snow. We want the snowpack and all. Okay, so let's talk about some other projects in our region. And as we chatted very briefly before we started the show today, you corrected me when I said that Washington had the biggest, the highest gas tax in the nation. And instead of being number 1, you said we are...
We're one of the highest.
Come on, we're number 2.
We're number 2. Right? But
Okay,
remember, I had some caveats there too.
All right,
So,
share those caveats with us.
So Washington State, all funding for transportation comes from gas tax. Where in other states, they may take money out of their general fund or use other funding mechanisms to fund their program. And in Washington, we mainly use the gas tax as our revenue source.
We mainly do. So there is some general fund money that goes to the Department of Transportation? Yeah?
No, I mean, we have several different things. A lot of the license, some of the license fees
Come to
the Department of Transportation, yes. Various driver's license, new license tabs, renewing your car and trucks, light trucks, and trucks. That some of that comes to the Department of Transportation.
So in 2015, the legislature allocated like $16 billion that will take us into the future of 16 years working on a variety of projects. So what are some of those projects that we care about here in Eastern Washington or in our region? Let's just say spanning from Walla Walla to Ellensburg.
Sure, I'll start with Walla Walla.
Yeah.
Here in the past several years, we've, those folks that drive down to Walla Walla have noticed that we're starting to four-lane, or have been four-laning that section. And actually, we've broken that whole piece essentially between Pasco and Burbank area down to Walla Walla into 8 phases. And we really have 2 phases left. And this last gas tax package provided funding to fully complete another 10 miles of that, of what we call Phase 8. And then also provided funding for the last phase just to do the design and actually purchase the right-of-way we need to build that. So that was so that's the Walla Walla area. There's also an intersection down in the Walla Walla area called Plaza Way, and it's an intersection of Plaza Way and Highway 125. So there's some funding there to do some intersection improvements for that intersection. So as we come up further, up into the Tri-Cities area, you have US 395 down in the Ridgeline area, the South Ridge. You've got a lot of development going on down there, new hospital, and so we're working closely with the city of Kennewick, and the legislature provided some money to build an actual new interchange on 395 right at the Ridgeline area, right at the Ridgeline intersection, just south of Hildebrand intersection. And so, that will actually design will probably start on that here probably in the next year, but the construction probably won't happen for another few years.
Now wait, help me understand.
Yeah.
You're going to have an off-ramp on I-82
so
that
as
connects the Hildebrand?
Actually, okay, so if you're coming north on 82 and you take off into 395, on 395 to go into Kennewick, right there at Ridgeline, where the State Patrol, there's the State Patrol.
Yes,
right there.
uh-huh.
So right now there's
36th or something like that. Okay, okay.
Right now there's we call it an at-grade intersection, just an intersection with no signal there.
Right.
And then down the road is Hildebrand with a signal. So, but right at that intersection with no signal, we plan to construct an interchange there. So there will be an off-ramp and on-ramps to access Ridgeline Drive. Right?
Okay, all right. So now you're just starting the design of that.
Starting the design. The city actually is lead on the design, and we are again going to partner with them and to fully construct that.
Okay.
So that's another project. And here recently on Tuesday, we actually had a ribbon cut or a groundbreaking for one of our Red Mountain transportation improvements down there in Benton City. So it's a new roundabout down on Benton City, right in the entrance into Benton City, right off of exit 96 there. And so that project will take, probably take about 6-7 months at least to construct, but it'll be a new roundabout. And right now there's Highway 224, Highway 225, and I-82 on and off ramps right there, right where the gas station is there and the park and ride. And so all those intersections will be combined into the roundabout. Right? So that's phase 1. Phase 2 is actually a new interchange on I-82. Just east of Benton City. And so that won't happen for another few years, but the legislature provided funding for a new interchange there.
On I-82?
On I-82.
And which direction is it going to go?
So it'll be, if you can visualize, if you're coming from the Tri-Cities going to the Yakima, there's a large curve there. Just right as you leave 182 and 82 interchange. There's a long curve there, and that interchange will be basically right at that curve, right at the end of the curve. So it's basically smack dab between Benton City interchange, the exit 96, and the I-82 182 interchange. It's about midway between those 2 points.
And what's the purpose of it?
That purpose is really economic vitality, and it's would provide a lot better access for West Richland. To the interstate system, and as well as the whole Red Mountain viticultural area all through that area. So those are three right in the Tri-Cities area. If you move up towards Yakima, we have part of the package provided some improvements to some bridges down in Mapton. We actually closed the Mapton Bridge there on 220 down south of Sunnyside.
Mm-hmm.
And 221 down south of Sunnyside, we actually closed the bridge because of it. You couldn't handle almost couldn't handle a pickup truck, and so we had to go in there and had to fix that bridge temporarily. The legislature then provided money to actually allow us to bring that bridge to handle legal loads. So it's really going to improve the freight movement up and down that corridor between Mapton and Sunnyside.
Mm-hmm.
So as we move further up the corridor, up the 82 corridor, we actually have two large projects in the Yakima area. One at the South Union Gap interchange, and that is to provide that. Right now, it's actually, we call it South Union Gap. It's really where US 97 takes off of 82.
Yeah.
Right in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And so that interchange really is kind of a half interchange. It doesn't provide full access to the South Union Gap area. And so this package provides two new ramps to that area,
Mm-hmm.
to that interchange. And then move further up Yakima and right around where the old Boise Cascade Mill is, there in the Yakima area. The package provided some money to actually do some improvements, improve some access in and around that Boise Cascade Mill. And this is in conjunction with the city wanting to develop that mill site, the old mill site, and also the county, Yakima County, wanting to install another crossing of the Yakima River to provide better access into Terrace Heights. And so all those, both the city, the county, and us, are looking at doing improvements down in that area along 182.
Yeah. That will provide a lot of economic development for them, hopefully, if they can. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I wish them the best of luck in that project. That's a really, really big one. So let me stop you there.
Okay, sure.
So that's far enough for us.
Yeah, okay. So,
Well, you gotta mention that.
oh, I know.
Snoqualmie
That's where I was
Oh,
going through
okay,
next.
okay,
Yeah.
Snoqualmie, all right, because
One
we all
more.
care about that.
Yeah.
Every time, I mean, that's what people talk about these days. You cannot go over that pass in the past decade, or it appears in the next decade, without there being construction somewhere.
Right.
Is that gonna happen?
Construction there for quite some time.
Wow, okay, it's perpetual.
Yes, so in the past gas tax increases back in 2003 and 2005, legislature provided funding for about 7 miles of 6 laning of Snoqualmie Pass, and you see a lot of that construction going on right now. With this last gas tax package, the legislature provided funding to actually complete that 15-mile corridor. We're looking at 15 miles between where the 6 laning stops there on the around the Hyack area,
Where our maintenance facility is up
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
I see.
all the way to Easton. And so that was about 15 miles there. We studied that, and again, earlier legislature provided about 7 miles worth of improvements, and now legislature fully funded that whole section. So we have about 15 miles of 6-lane facility through there.
So at some point, there won't be this section that we are supposed to be going 55 miles an hour, which the majority of people do not go. So they create quite, I believe, a traffic hazard by driving 70 to 75 miles an hour in an area that you have asked people to drive 55. What's going to go on there? Is at some point it going to be 75?
Probably won't be 75 when we're all set.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
70,
Yeah.
70.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yeah, 70.
Now we know how fast you're going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, come on, I'm getting passed left and right, and you know
right.
that too. So,
So yeah, probably between 60 and 65. I'm assuming
Yeah.
we'll probably still have some variable speeds.
You know,
speed
that
limits through area.
section of I-90 is very unique in that it's a variable speed limit that the federal highways allowed us to do, and so we can change the speed limit to match kind of the road conditions. So right now, when we're chaining up trucks and things in the past, we've lowered the speed limit to probably 30 miles an hour right now. So it's one of those areas that you can actually change the speed limit. Not a lot of interstate is like that. And, you know, just so you know, we try to keep 2 lanes open across Snoqualmie during peak travel times. That's when most of the people are driving over there. But, you know, some of the, you know, you kind of said, well, it's going on forever. And, you know, part of the problem is we only get about 6 months of construction up there, and then the contractor has to shut down for winter. So say we were building that project down here in the Tri-Cities, you know, a little less severe weather, we could probably get it done a little quicker. But but
Mhm.
with all the snow and rain up there, we at best, we get 6 months out of
Yeah.
it.
Well, we should be grateful. I don't mean to sound ungrateful because Snoqualmie Pass is beautiful and very scenic, and you know, you get over the mountain, and even with the snow conditions being poor, you clear the roadway and you work it, and you work it. We're going to take a break here, but we'll be back. I still want to ask you about bridges, because I know you are responsible for that, and certainly there has been a lot of talk over the past decade about bridge deterioration in our nation. So we're back in a moment here on Meet in the Middle. We are back, and we're talking about road construction, or just roads and bridges and all that the Department of Transportation is responsible for in the state of Washington here. Brian White and Troy Sewing are my guests today. So bridges in our area, you are responsible only for bridges that go over state roads, is that correct?
Yeah, so we're responsible for the interstates and state routes. County roads, city roads, obviously those are the responsibility of those entities that built them.
So in our area, it would be like the 2 bridges going over the Snake River and the 3 bridges going across the Columbia that are right in our direct neighborhood here in the Tri-Cities, the Cable Bridge, Blue Bridge, and the Vulcan Test. So what is the condition of those 5 bridges that I just mentioned? And when was the last time you inspected them? Do you know? I know.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out a random
those,
question here.
those bridges that you mentioned, those are all, I mean, they're all safe, all fine. We inspect at least every year,
Yeah.
some a little more, just depending on the type of bridge.
You know, if it's a big, long structure like a couple you have here, they probably inspect more. We also have a bridge crew that's located in Yakima that goes around and does a lot of the smaller repairs and stuff. And so they're always, you know, our maintenance crews are always kind of checking for stuff and looking at when they're, you know, plowing across the bridge. You know, they're inspecting it. So it's kind of ongoing. But like what Troy's talking about is where we get the headquarters and they bring out their U-bit trucks. It's a truck that has a little truss thing that goes underneath the bridge, and they go through meticulously and, you know, check each joint and look at the bridge condition.
I'm not a bridge engineer, but help me understand why, for example, on the Blue Bridge, which obviously is a tremendous amount of travel on it here in the Tri-Cities area, why it has that hump in the middle? Why, I mean, is that a construction or an engineering reason? Do you
A little bit, I guess a little bit of both. Partial is some clearance as well. Sometimes on, especially the highways that have navigation, barges or whatever, we need to have some clearance underneath those bridges, and a lot of times that's what happens. Hopefully when it's designed, you put the hump, as you call it, in the bridge. And it's also to tie back down to when you need to do that when you tie back down on either end.
Yeah, if you go down to the Columbia River, where some of those bridges don't have the humps, they usually have a movable span so that now, you know, barges and ships can get through it. So by having that hump in there, you don't need the movable span, which is just another operating cost and another thing that can wear out.
Are you responsible for the flag that's on top of the Blue Bridge?
Yes, we are, yeah.
No, I think it's
So,
wonderful.
yes,
No,
yes,
I was just,
actually,
no.
we had it replaced here, was it last year?
Last year,
Yeah.
those are kind of a big deal. That's why we were kind of
Yeah,
worried
yeah.
that
Yeah.
we had that flag replaced last year.
Took a special contractor actually that was brave enough to climb up there and replace it. And that's what he did for a living, so things like
There
that.
was some interesting GoPro video that was on our website at the time of him climbing up there and doing it, and it's not something I want to do.
Right.
No, absolutely, yeah. So, how many bridges are you responsible for in this region? Do you know off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay, 100?
Oh,
50?
Well over 100.
Well over 100?
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta think
Okay.
our region starts at the Idaho border and
Oh,
basically
I see.
goes all the way to Sadis Pass. We go over to the top of White Pass, and then we go over top of Snoqualmie Pass. So we've got a large geographical area, you know, a lot of different terrain, so there's quite a few bridges that we take care of.
Snoqualmie Pass and White Pass are your jurisdictions?
As well as
Oh my
Chinook
gosh,
Pass.
okay, I didn't, and Chinook Pass.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Mhm.
Wow. What do people complain the most about?
Oh boy, pick a route. Let's see, and it depends on the time of year.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Let's see, Snoqualmie Pass, you know, there's some delays with construction. We get a lot of that, you know, if there's backups and that kind of thing.
Striping
is one of the
big
biggest
thing
things
over
here on Snoqualmie.
You know, just the lack of striping, and you know,
I see.
you know,
Yeah.
we've
The
tried
lack of
different.
it.
Well, we maintain it. We put striping down. It's just with the snow plows and all the vehicles on there, striping just doesn't last long. So we've tried different products. We've insetted the stripe into the concrete so that, you know, the plow will just kind of go over the top of it and won't scrape it off. And then 2 years ago, Troy was able to get a federal grant. We actually tried little LED lights on Snoqualmie Pass as well. And I don't know if you saw those when you go to Seattle. They're just like those little garden lights that you put in your driveway or something. They're LED and they're recessed into the pavement, so they have a little solar panel on top, so that charges them, and then that gives you the striping.
Oh, that sounds like a really smart idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really surprised that John has not asked this question so far, so let me go ahead and, John, do you want to ask it? Go ahead, come on.
Well, we were just wondering what's going to be happening with Bertha.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, here on the east side, we're a little bit insulated from
Sure.
that. But as I understand,
But we're annoyed by it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people. I understand it's just turned things upside down over there.
Yeah, I think there's, you know, first Bertha is getting ready. They're going to get ready to start her up again and continue digging. You know, one thing a lot of people saying is that, you know, that project's kind of stalled, and it really isn't. The project is almost done, but the key piece of it, obviously, the tunnel needs to be built, but the interchanges and the approaches, a lot of that work is completed. You know, it's a different type contract that we normally do. Normally, we will design a contract, put it out for advertisement, private contractors will bid on it, we'll award that contract, and then we retain the design risk. So if there's something wrong with the design or something, you know, it's on us to fix it, or any cost overruns, that's our responsibility. On the Alaska Viaduct, it was a design-build contract where we put together about 30% plans and put it out and let the contracting and design community bid on it to be innovative, creative, come up with different ideas. But one of the big things that happens in that contract is we transfer the risk, the design risk, the construction risk to the contractor. And so, so that's right now what's, you know, kind of going on is they're trying to finish the bore tunnel, but there's a lot of argument about whose responsibility is it, and ultimately that'll be decided. But you know, they're working hard to get that tunnel done. And you know, Todd Trippener is going to be our new regional administrator. He's worked in this area for a long time. You know, still lives in the Yakima area. He'll be coming back here shortly to be our new regional administrator. And we're really excited to have him back. He's a really innovative and a collaborative person. Works really hard. You know, but if you talk to Todd, he'll tell you, you know, if you look at the history of tunnel projects, they always have some kind of issues, but at the end, they always get built. And so I think it's just asking the public to be patient on this. We didn't buy a tunnel bore machine, we bought a tunnel. And so all this issues with the machine is really the responsibility of the contractor to get that machine up and running.
All right, well, I'm going to let you go, but I want to get back to Highway 12 and White Pass, and I know that you cannot give a date. I completely understand that, but what are you shooting for to try to open White Pass in these two areas to one lane and your stoplight and all? What are you hoping for?
So we're hoping next week to get it open.
Next week, okay.
We want to get it open before Christmas. You know, it's called, we're kind of designing and building at the same time, and so sometimes the solutions change as you're working through some of those issues, or you start learning different stuff about the hillside as you're starting to backfill it, that kind of changes stuff. And so that's just, you know, why we've been a little reluctant to kind of name a date, but now I feel we're on track to. The contractor's been hauling rock 24/7 as that hole's getting filled up. The geotech, or the DBM, has been putting in soil nail walls. You know, when you put in the soil nails, sometimes they don't always work. I mean, sometimes you have fissures in the rock and the grout seeps in there. We've seen this up on Snoqualmie Pass, and so we've actually had to change the design of the wall once. Here, we're seeing the soil nails working, so that's a good sign. So I'm feeling before Christmas we'll have it up there, and people will be able to get those skis that they get for Christmas and go up to White Pass and go skiing.
Okay, good. Engineering is a marvel. Brian White and Troy Sewing from the Department of Transportation, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're back in a moment.